Thanks for watching. What's up, everybody? Kathleen, the owner of Shred415 here, coming at you live from my house. We were in the studio earlier today filming a live workout. It was super fun, but now we're kind of switching gears. So we're trying to stay fit, stay healthy through this time physically. Last week we had a nutrition workshop with a registered dietitian that joined us, and this week it's Mental Health Monday. So we have a mental health professional, Shannon from Therapy by Shannon, joining us. I'm super duper excited. Shannon's the shit. She's no BS. She's going to tell it like it is, help us all through this time, learning how to cope with what we're all going through. Every single one of us, it might be a little different. And look, there she is. So she's going to tell you a little bit about herself, and we'll get started for Mental Health Monday. Shannon's jumping in.
How are ya?
Hi, Shannon. How are you?
Good. How was your day going?
Good. I'm still like a little sweaty from the workout, but we're good.
I'm sure.
Yeah. So Shannon, tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got into your profession and what you're doing now during this time.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm Shannon Gonter. I'm a licensed professional clinical counselor here in Louisville. I have a private practice, Therapy by Shannon, and then I'm also the owner of Be Mindful Louisville, which is a shared workspace for other mental health professionals in private practice, kind of like an incubator space for them to house their practices out of. And during these kind of uncertain times that we're all navigating through, I've moved my practice all online. And so a lot of people call that online counseling, teletherapy, telepsychology, all sorts of names under it. But essentially, it's using a HIPAA compliant platform to see your clients virtually, so you can do video and audio at the same time, similar to Zoom and stuff like that, but just HIPAA compliant.
Oh yeah, I didn't even think about that you have to have that security.
Oh yeah, confidentiality is a huge thing around the mental health world, so lots of regulations there.
Well, glad to hear that you're following the rules and doing all the good things for us. So I know myself and friends and family members are kind of struggling right now, honestly. It is a weird time to be a human right now, no matter where you live. And so I'm super excited and thankful for you being here to kind of help guide us through some tools to cope and some ideas and ways that we can help come out this on the other side even stronger and even better.
Yeah, definitely. No, I'm glad to be here. And similar to what you were saying before, it's so weird to be living in this time. We don't ever plan for this type of shit to happen. And so there's a space that we're all humans before this. We all had our own mental health concerns going on before this, whether they be really severe or really minor. And then adding this on top of it, it can just make it really tough. Some people I know are kind of feeling stuck, and they are feeling like they don't know what to do with all of this. Some people on the outside are kind of like being like, well, stuck at home, I'm going to knock out all these home renos, I'm going to do all these things. And it can kind of, I think, get into our heads a lot of this comparison game too, of like how we should be feeling about it. And that's something that's so important about your mental health, is that it's yours. And so it's really unique on how you can create that for yourself, on what's going to work best for you. Part of that transition time is the struggle that we're in, though, is trying to figure out like, okay, so like this is real, this is happening, and how can I adjust? Honestly, when we have transitions that we've planned for years or for months, that transition is still really tough. Even if it's something that we know is going to be good for us and know is really positive, transitions are hard. Humans are wired to be a little bit hesitant and resistant towards change. And so a change definitely like this, that is not in our control, not something that we want, not something that's good for us or, you know, the loved ones around us, and something that has a really uncertain timeline to it, of course, is not going to settle well for us.
Yeah, and we all just heard that April 30th new date. So it is a 30-day at least time that we're all going to be dealing with this. So I have my notepad. So if anyone from home has a notepad and wants to take some notes during this, Shannon, if you want to start sharing like maybe some tools that we can all use to cope with this time, I'm going to jot down some notes and let you take it away.
Of course. Um, in talking about this, it's been kind of difficult to talk about everyone's situation because everyone is so different. Whether you are still working, whether you're not working, whether you're able to work from home, whether you're having to go in and you're on the front line. And so I've kind of just like broken things down and the way I think about it into like three major transition categories. And so kind of like work or how we earn money, school for those of us that are in school maybe or have children that are in school, and then just like the overall social distancing transition, because that's a huge thing, of course, for work, school, and our social lives. So with the symptoms that pop up with all of that, they all kind of mix and mingle together because our lives are one. We don't really compartmentalize work and home, even when we're going to those places. And so a lot of the symptoms that are popping up for people are what mental health professionals would call like typical anxiety or depressive symptoms, but they're kind of going unnoticed or they're kind of getting marked as something else. So it's really important to stay in touch with like you and your internal experience. During this time, it can be really easy to focus on everything else around you, to just watch news all the time, to mindlessly scroll on Instagram, to do all these different things that are so focused on everything else. And we don't even like check in with ourselves. Maybe once a day, or sometimes we don't even check in with ourselves that much. So we really want to make sure we're checking in with ourselves because there could be stuff going on that's totally different than our norm. And that's going to be able to tell us like how all of this is really affecting us. And so a lot of people are experiencing, like decrease of appetite or issues falling asleep, maybe like racing thoughts and not being able to turn their brains off, or overthinking. Some people are kind of feeling hopeless over this situation, maybe some difficulties concentrating. And so all those different symptoms, if that's not typical for you, really being able to tune into that to be like, oh yeah, this all started happening about 2 weeks ago when we were on lockdown and I couldn't go do my normal outlets or whatever it may be. And so like, your gym is a perfect example of that. If like that's a huge social and physical and health thing that so many people do in their day, whether it's on their way to work or on their way home or whatever it may be, that now transition is out of their life. And so not even just the workout that they get when they come to you, but also the social interactions they have, but also the quiet time maybe they have in the car that they're driving there. Like, so all of these things are now out of our lives and we're like, well, shit, what do we do? And fantastic that you and lots of other companies are doing crazy cool virtual things that we can interact with, but we're still missing out on that transition time in the car, the music time in the car, the whatever it may be, like in the commute and that social space. And so really making sure that we're noticing that it's like, oh, okay, well, I just, checked in, did my Zoom workout, whatever it may be, but it doesn't feel the same. Well, one, it's not the same, so it's not going to feel the same. So don't have that expectation. But also you may need to go a couple other steps to make sure you sit there quietly before you start. Don't just like rush into it. Like let yourself kind of get used to this new norm in all sorts of different ways. But also you got to kind of adjust. And that's the tough thing. It's like a kind of learning as we go, which is unfortunate. But really making sure that we're just really checking in with ourselves, I think is really important because it's just going to be really helpful because, personally for me, I have a lot of anxiety. And so it's hard for me to kind of parse out like, oh, is this new because of COVID or is this just something else that's going on or whatever it may be. And in the end, it may not really matter why I'm feeling the tightness in my chest or feeling nervous or whatever it may be. But the point that I know that I'm feeling the tightness, well, now I can focus on something to do. I can do a couple breathing exercises to cool me back down. I can pause before I, log onto Instagram or before I start something else. But if I wasn't aware of that, then I would just start doing all those things and maybe my symptoms would increase.
Mm-hmm. So you said breathing exercises. What does that look like for you or for anyone that you'd recommend it for?
Yeah. So, I mean, honestly, like breathing exercises, a lot of people feel like they're so elementary in a sense because it's like, oh, well, we're always breathing. And it's like, sure, if you're alive, you are breathing in some capacity. but it's very like unconscious. We're not thinking about it. We just do it if we're alive. And so the idea of it is to kind of switch it over to the conscious track of our brain and to do conscious breathing. And so really being aware of your breath and what it's doing for you. And so there's all different ways to do that. A couple of my favorites is to be able to kind of count my breaths. That kind of helps me get my mind off whatever to-do list or whatever is going on in my head, and also just really focus in on my breath. And so typically what I do is I breathe in for 4, I hold it for 4, and then I breathe out for 4. And so what that looks like is like if I'm feeling a certain type of way, I usually just close my eyes and I just
That actually, I already feel better.
and it's like it's not a certain like magical pill, but it just like helps you reset. And sometimes I do that 30 times. But there's also ways of kind of like visualizations. A lot of people like to breathe. If they're feeling tightness in their chest or feeling jittery, like visualizing their breath going out of their body, maybe through the bottom of their feet and coming back into the body through the bottom of their feet, or whatever part is jittery or tense. But again, a lot of it is just switching that brain wave over to like, oh, I'm breathing in through my nose and breathing out through my mouth. A bit of that conscious awareness can really just help switch the track of the brain to something else. And a lot of that honestly is what awareness is switching the mind from the unconscious space to the conscious space. So we're aware of things. So same thing when we're scrolling on Instagram. A lot of times that is just mindless, unconscious, like scrolling, liking every couple, whatever it may be. There may be something that catches our eyes and we quickly switch over to the conscious so we can understand and read and digest. But if we consciously are going to use social media, and definitely during this times, because social media can definitely be something that is inundating us with lots of anxiety and lots of news, and we want to kind of limit maybe how much news we're taking in, but consciously, if we do that, we're making the choice to when we're going to sit down and listen to a podcast about all of this, or when we're going to listen to our governor talk about it, or when we're going to scroll through different things. Go Andy, loving all that he is saying.
Here's with the shears.
Yes, but it's making the choice opposed to feeling like this uncontrollable thing or this social media or this whatever is controlling us. And this is a very scary, very uncertain time for a lot of people. But the thing is we have things happen in our life all the time that we have no control of, and that we don't want to happen to us. We kind of, that historical evidence that we have of one, just the longevity of humans, but also just in our lives can really, really help during those hopeless times, because we've gotten through tough shit and we're going to get through this. It's just going to look a little bit different. And yeah, our lives kind of after this may be shaped a little bit differently too.
Just understanding all that. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's a bit of like connecting too, of like, even things like this. I mean, I've known you for years and we've never done something like this because we always talk in person. But this is fantastic. And this is a great outlet to be able to do things like this on. But not that we wouldn't have ever thought of this if this didn't happen, and not that we want this to happen so this could happen. But this is a good reframe to be able to be like, oh, there's other outlets, there's other things that we can connect with people. And I think we're all really good at, you know, maybe switching technology over to work for us at work, or if we got to call our friend to do something, but we've got to kind of renegotiate the rules that we have with technology now, because you're not so much, if you're only going to call people when you need something, you're probably not going to be calling a lot of people recently, or, you know, in the future, because you're not going to be doing much. You know, you're not going to be leaving your house. You're not going to be getting the Uber. You're not going to be texting people on my way to your house type thing. So you have to have other reasons to call people. And the main reasons to connect is to just connect with people. And so I've seen a lot of people, I know there's like a Chrome extension that you can watch Netflix together. And so people,
oh, that's so cool.
Having like
I didn't know that.
parties. Yeah. And they're not even talking, but they're just sitting there watching a TV show together. Because when you think of, if you had your buddy over and we're watching TV, you're not sitting there talking the whole time. You're watching a TV show. And so we're kind of missing out on some of that, what it's kind of called as parallel play, is kind of being in the room with other people but doing different tasks. We're missing out on a lot of that because we're each at home doing our own things. And not everyone lives at home, you know, with a partner or with a family. A lot of people live alone, or a lot of people don't live in very safe or very comfortable environments. And so being able to have a bit of control in some of that, to be able to, again, take control of the things we can control and acknowledge the things that we can't, and don't try to kind of mix those two, because if we're trying to control the uncontrollables, that's just going to drive us more batshit.
Yeah, that's just a recipe for failure.
Sure.
Yeah. So you got my mind thinking about a lot of people that are working from home now. Like I'm sitting on my couch, and this is the couch that I did my work from on my email all day today too. So I have a feeling that that's probably not advised. So what would your recommendation be for someone that is newly working from home to transition into that?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and that's another thing it's so tough to kind of navigate, because everyone lives in such different spaces. So if you do have the space, I do highly recommend trying to have different spaces in your house for different activities, just like we do when we're going to work. We go to work and maybe we sit at our desk every day. We sit in a similar space. We have different areas for different things. We don't typically go to work and this situation may be different for you. I was going to say, typically we don't go to work and work out. But I don't typically go to my office and
You
work out.
don't? You don't sit on the couch and work out all day?
And same thing, I don't go to my gym and do counseling. And so in the home environment, though, that looks very different. I am seeing my clients online from my house. I am working out in the house. I'm having virtual happy hours from my house. I'm talking to my partner from my house. I mean, so everything is in my house. And so what I'm trying to do of using the space within the house to kind of parse things out. And ours, we have enough space to where I have everything that I do for work in one space, and I try my hardest to bring my laptop down there and do it from down there, unless I'm browsing Pinterest or doing something fun on my computer. Just because when I'm sitting on my couch watching Netflix or doing virtual happy hour or whatever it may be, I don't want to also be thinking like, oh God, I just sat here for 8 hours responding to emails and doing all these things. I want to be able to have some bit of separation in my brain. And so being able to have kind of different spaces in your house, again, you can kind of take that control back or take that ownership back of like, this is my office, this is, you know, whatever, my dining room or whatever it may be. And it doesn't have to be anything fancy. I mean, a lot of us that do work from home, you need a chair and a space to put your laptop or your computer or things like that. I've seen some people's pictures of they're stacking up laundry baskets and they're, you know, just making makeshift things and trying to figure out what works. And maybe you do that for a day and you're like, that was terrible, I'm not going to do that again. And then you don't have to. Again, you're taking that appropriate control and kind of space back to make those decisions on where you can. Because again, with a lot of us, we can not make a lot of decisions and don't have a lot of choice in how it all pans out.
Yeah, lots of trial and error.
Oh yeah, for sure. And
over and over again.
If you've got kids in the house, if you've got animals in the house, you have partners in the house, I mean, also, like, you can't do it all. So, like, a lot of the advice that I've been giving, not a lot of my clients really have kids at all, but a lot of family, friends, and all sorts of things with kids and animals and all the things. It's just you can't do it all. So, like, kind of like lowering that expectation. Like, you are not going to be able to be the superstar employee, the superstar mom, also the teacher, and also train your dog how to jump through hoops and do all these things. Like, just go ahead and lower the expectations a little bit. That, like,
yeah, lower the bar down a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, because again, like, it's not anything to say that you don't have really good skills and you can't do a lot of things. But again, you're trying to do all those things, and maybe you can do all those things on a normal day, but like, this is not a normal time that we're living in. So a lot of your brain space and a lot of what's going on up there is being consumed with whether it's fear or worry or stress or whatever is going on up there. And so if you're trying to keep push, there's going to be kind of a ceiling that you're going to hit, or a breaking point that sometimes looks like a volcano. And so just going in there and saying, like, you know what, we can eat takeout, or we can kind of order ready to go meals, or we can have frozen meals. Like, we don't have to make these elaborate meals and work super hard all day and do all these crazy experiments with the kids. And I mean, like, kind of cut your losses when you can. And like, if the house is a little bit messy, that's okay. Like, I mean, like, not everything has to be kind of perfect, because if perfect is the kind of goal.
Yeah. You're speaking to me right now, because we just moved and there are literally boxes everywhere. My husband is cooking dinner.
Oh yeah.
So like you nailed it. Can't do it all.
Yeah, no, but like, your stuff will be fine in the boxes. Like,
yeah, it'll be fine.
It'll be fine. As long as it's not perishable food, it'll be fine.
That's true.
There we go.
That's very true.
It's like, maybe we unpack the food and maybe we leave the clothes.
Yeah. All we need is workout clothes anyways, and sweatpants.
There we go.
Exactly. So when we were talking about this little Mental Health Monday thing, we were thinking about like asking some questions to the audience, or if anyone out there viewing has a question that they want to share, or just like anything that you want to share, now's the time to pop it in there. So Christy, Martha, Susie, I see you in there. If anybody else has a question, a comment, something, pop it in there, and Shannon would be happy to kind of guide you through her expertise. We were talking about some apps that you recommend to some clients sometimes. Can you elaborate on that?
Oh, there's so many, and right now there's a lot that are doing like free trials, or essentially just opening up their whole app for free due to all this chaos. But I actually have like a full, I don't even know how many resources are on there. There's probably 100+ resources on there that I can send you. It's just going to be like a OneDrive shareable thing that I'll have, and it has so many lists, or so many apps on the list. But some of my favorite are Sanomind. And so what Sanomind is
how do you spell that?
SAONMIND.
Oh, okay.
Got it. Essentially what it is like mental health podcasts. Some of them are 30 seconds. Some of them are going to be like 20 minutes. Some of them are meditation. Some of them are just like education on all sorts of things. And those are all by like licensed mental health professionals. So, you know, the information you're getting on there is legit. So I really like that one. Insight Timer is great as well. They do free stuff. They also do paid for stuff. My advice on all the apps is they all have paid for things. Obviously, they want to make money. They're a business. But you can get so much benefit out of all the free things. As long as you know how to like navigate around certain things on apps when it's like upgrade, and you're like, nope, gonna do the free version. You can get so many great things. There's guided meditations on there, and they kind of break them down by like sleep, anxiety, depression, stress. And so you can kind of pick what you're struggling with that day, click go, and then it'll kind of give you a great meditation.
Yeah. So if someone is starting for their first time meditating, like, what should be the expectations as they start? Like, should you dive into like a 60-minute meditation, or should you start a little bit chunkier?
First time, yeah, like I would try to do maybe like a 2 or 3 minute one.
Okay.
And the expectation, honestly, for it is going to be to just breathe, like, through it. Like, there's this expectation that when you're meditating, that your brain shuts off and that you're not thinking of anything. And that if I'm thinking of, you know, what my kid did or what color the wall is or all sorts of things, that you're doing it wrong. But that's just not true, because the brain is designed to make thoughts come up. And so if your brain is not making thoughts come up, then there might be something wrong. And so what your brain is doing in meditation is just telling a story like it tells every day. But it's very, very weird for us to get into like a meditative state and to try to stop our brain. And so there's this natural resistance that like our brain is always going and we're trying to come in and stop it. It's obviously just going to keep going, and we want it to keep going. But again, that conscious awareness is a really big piece of meditating, is that we just want to be aware of what's coming up for us, because there's going to be patterns in what's coming up for us. If it's to-do list, or if it's our mom, or if it's some work project or whatever it may be, like that's probably telling you something if it's consuming that much of your brain space. And so my suggestion for people when they're meditating is to expect those thoughts to come up. A lot of people don't exactly agree with this if you're kind of like more of the old school mentality, but I do always suggest that you keep a little notepad next to you while you're meditating, because if there is something that keeps coming up and you can't stop it, just jot it down, get back into your space, close your eyes, and then keep going. Like there's really no rules except for you to be you and you trying to like chill out, whether it be for a second or whether it be for 60 minutes. But being in a meditative space is just really trying to focus on your breathing and just like pause for a little bit, but noticing or realizing, I guess, that pausing doesn't mean blanking out. That's just not going to happen. So again, the expectation is not that. The expectation is just to be able to like zone like in on whatever's going on. And so the guided meditations are really great because there's someone talking at you the whole time, usually having you visualize things or tell you things or focus on different parts of your body. So it keeps your mind kind of going, but it can kind of like hone it in and focus it a little bit.
Yeah, it sounds like we keep coming back to just setting the bar a little lower right now. Like you're not going to be a professional meditator from the first time, or you're not going to be amazing at this right now because we're all still learning through it.
And if you are, that would be really weird. Like if you were like, this is great, like all the, like, well, how'd you get there? Like, or if you meditated your first time and you were like master of anything, like that's just not how life happens. Like, and so being able to realize that like we're all humans, we're all going through this, whether it's starting meditation or going through a pandemic or navigating a relationship, like they're all things and they're all very different for all of us. But like if we have that awareness and we have that knowledge of us and them or the situation or whatever it is, like the more data we have, the better we're going to be at tackling it.
We do have a viewer question asking about supporting family members and friends during this time. So maybe you're doing really well at this right now and crushing it, but you know someone that maybe doesn't have access to some mental health resources or has never experienced these feelings or anxieties before. What would you suggest to someone to help their friends and family through it?
Yeah, support is such a huge thing with that connection piece. And a lot of things can be, if you're someone who's kind of rocking it, who's able to be kind of whatever we want to define as stable during this time, then you can kind of model for that other person, whether it be certain things that you're doing that are working for you. Like, hey, I listen to this 10-minute podcast every day and it's really informational. And then I don't look at the news the rest of the day until 6 p.m. That really helps me kind of separate things out. And so I'm not consumed in all these new cases every single minute. And being able to just kind of model for them and support them in different ways. But also just listening. I mean, a lot of the times, like, especially now, most of our conversations are consumed with COVID. And just
all of them.
Like,
I can't get away from it.
Even when we try to have a conversation about something else, sometimes it just turns back to coronavirus. I mean, like it just has a circle loop. And so just being able to listen, but also sometimes some of that support may look like talking about things that aren't COVID. I mean, you have a relationship with this individual or with your family member before this all happened. What would you talk about before then? And being able to kind of like normalize that, like when tough things happen. So, if a friend's going through a breakup, that's a tough thing that's happening. We're talking about that. I'm supporting her through that, all these things. But we're also probably going to talk about how her day was at work and how her cat is and how her mom is or whatever it may be. So it's a little bit abnormal for us to only talk to people just about COVID. And so it can kind of add that pressure and add that anxiety a little bit onto it. So it's like, oh, this is all we talk about. Understandably, but we want to try to again like get back to some of what our relationships were about before.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And then as far as resources go, so say that someone's out of work because of all that's happening, are there any online resources or anything that we could direct friends and family members to?
Yeah, there's again, like I'll put it all in the resource doc, but there's lots of therapists. If you're looking for like mental health services that are doing reduced fee sessions for anyone, but let alone like definitely frontline workers, there's lots of websites now popping up and designing like just for coronavirus frontline workers. But there's lots of mental
That's
health apps
amazing.
too that are just like super helpful again on like that awareness piece and maybe even being able to as simple as thing as like a mood tracker, being able to track your mood each day. Because
Mm,
if you are staying at home all day, it can be really tough to sometimes even figure out like what day is it. Like I mean, like it can be tough to navigate those things. So it's like if you're trying to have some sort of a schedule or a mood tracker or kind of even journaling is fantastic. All sorts of those resources, of course, will be in the resources, like the list that I'm going to send out. But it's just really, really helpful again to like listen and connect in any way we can. And for
hmm
some people, that is going to look like connecting and listening to things from an app. And for other people, that's going to be, you know, with friends or family or with a mental health worker. And all of those things are perfectly fine. I just got to kind of figure out what meets your needs right now.
Yeah. And so I'll get that link from you and I'll put it up in our bio, so people can click on the link in our bio and find that resource. I feel like
Yeah.
that'd be super helpful. So
Yeah, I'll
thank you,
have it in
Shannon.
my bio too. So
Awesome. So we're coming up on about 30 minutes. Is there something else that you want our viewers to take away from today, or something that you feel really passionate about right now that you want to kind of finish out with?
I mean, I think the biggest thing for right now is like to make sure we're connecting with other people and or making sure those of us and our, you know, those people that we have in our lives that maybe we haven't connected with in a long time, or maybe that, you know, worry us, whether they're high risk for this virus or if they just kind of worry us for other reasons, making sure we're connecting with them too. And again, not just about COVID, about other things, but there's a part where the way that we can take back control of how this is consuming our lives and changing things so much is again being able to take control of what we can. And so relationships, our thoughts, our feelings, our actions, all those things we have a very big part in and a very big say in how they work. And so with all of this
hmm
kind of shit coming at us that we can't control, restrictions, things closing down, whatever it may be, we've just got to adapt to that, and we can't kind of let it the script kind of turn and that lead us. We've still got to be kind of the driver of our own bus, and a big part of that is human connection. Whether you're someone who has 1,000 friends or 5 friends, it doesn't matter. It's that like very conscious, genuine connection that we need as humans. And we're not obviously, unless we live with a partner or family, like we're not getting a lot of physical touch, and humans also need a lot of physical touch. And so one way to combat that is kind of through things like this, FaceTime, Zoom, anything like that, where you can get as close to that in-person interaction as possible. It's just really, really key.
Yeah,
Keeping.
I found that like doing Zooms or FaceTimes with friends has been just so uplifting and
Mm-hmm.
so fun because yes, you're a lot of it, you're talking about COVID, but you do, you know, at some point you do forget everything that's happening and you're just talking to your loved ones. So that's been
Yeah,
really fun for me.
yeah, totally.
Awesome. Well, Shannon, this was amazing. We really appreciate you being here. Therapy by Shannon and Be Mindful Louisville. Be Mindful Louisville is, well, I'll let you explain it because you do a much better job.
Shared workspace for mental health professionals. So there are tons of mental health and wellness professionals that practice out of there. Go to our site. You can kind of find a provider and read all their bios. And then my bio is on there too. So feel free to reach out with any questions you have. You can reach out at info@therapybyshannon.com, or you can connect with me through my website.
So you are taking new clients right now?
Yeah, so I do have a couple slots open for new clients. Again, right now doing all telehealth, all online therapy. But yeah, I have a couple spots for clients. I typically work with young adults, so people kind of range in between 20 and 35, but definitely have clients outside of those age rings. But do individual mental health counseling with them. And a lot of my clients typically kind of self-label themselves as like perfectionists or high achievers, or people who have a really hard time, saying no to other people or shutting off their brain. And after kind of counseling, they're able to really renegotiate their contract that they have with themselves. And it really helps their work life, their personal life, and all sorts of things. Because again, we're trying to renegotiate that power dynamic that we've created over all of these years of life that we've lived. And unfortunately, as humans, we take a lot of things from our childhood that don't work for us anymore as adults, but we just keep doing them anyways. And so there's kind of some systems that need to be upgraded through adulthood that counseling can do wonders with.
Amazing. Well, yeah, I highly recommend if anyone out there is feeling anxious or having difficulty handling the situation right now, talk to Shannon, talk to somebody, and that will help you kind of through it. We're all in this together.
Yeah.
So we're all helping each other through.
Yeah.
So Shannon, Therapy by Shannon is going to link the resources page. We'll link it in our bio as well. Thank you all so much for joining. This was fun. We're going to keep doing some type of mental health Monday and just nutritional and just overall wellness workshops to help everybody through this time.
Yes, because another thing, all the times outside of the pandemic too, like eating, sleeping, and fitness are huge things for your mental health as well. So like making sure staying on top of all those normalcies. If you usually go to Shred, you usually eat well, you usually do all these things, like keep doing those things. That's your life. That's your pattern. That'll help all the things going on up here as well.
They all kind of work together in this one big,
and our
one
bodies.
big mesh.
None of it.
The whole thing.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Shannon. Thanks everyone for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Have a fabulous evening.
Yeah, you too. Bye, Kathleen.
Very well. Bye, Shannon.
Bye, guys.